Hi, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Bima. I'm 28 years old. I'm not a perfect person, but there's one thing I have that not everyone in my family does: loyalty. And what I want to share with you today is the story of someone everyone nearly forgot: my grandfather. Someone who was treated like a burden, who became the subject of eye rolls and whispered complaints. But at the end of his life, he turned everything upside down. When I was a kid, Grandpa was the only one who really made time for me. While Dad was always working and Mom was constantly busy managing my two hyperactive older brothers, it was Grandpa who taught me how to make coffee, iron a shirt, even how to read people, not by what they say, but what they do. But time passed. Grandpa got older, his body started to weaken, and little by little, my family started treating him like dead weight. I still remember the day everything changed. Grandpa slipped and fell in the bathroom. I was 24 at the time, just starting a job in the city, still on contract. But the moment I got the call, I took the first train home. Meanwhile, my brothers, Reza and Dito, just sent short texts. Well, as long as he's still breathing. Here we go again. Here we go again. That was their favorite phrase whenever Grandpa came up. That night, I sat beside Grandpa's hospital bed. His hand was cold, his eyes distant, but when he saw me, he smiled. He didn't ask for help. He didn't beg me to stay. He just whispered, "You look tired, Bim." And I cried. Right there. No shame. The next morning, I filed for leave. I started taking care of him myself, changing his diapers, feeding him bland porridge, sitting beside him through midnight fevers and confused hallucinations. Reza, he flew to Thailand with his wife, said, "We already paid for this vacation. Can't get a refund." Dito said he had back-to-back Zoom meetings even though he lived just 2 miles away. Every time I updated the family group chat, no one really responded. Sometimes they even replied with laughing emojis. Laughing emojis. One day I finally snapped and typed, "Am I seriously the only one doing this? Aren't you his grandsons too?" Reza replied, "You're being dramatic. This is just what old people do. Don't take it so personally, Bim." Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I started memorizing the rhythm of Grandpa's breathing. I knew when he was lucid, when he was scared, when he just needed someone to hold his hand. One night he tugged at my wrist. "Bima," he whispered. "The safe box. Under the bed." I was confused. Safe box? I grabbed a flashlight, and sure enough, beneath a wooden panel hidden under the bed frame was a steel lockbox. It was locked, but Grandpa gave me a hint. Grandma's birthday. When I opened it, there wasn't any money. Instead, I found envelopes, legal folders, and a flash drive. Among the papers, there was one letter that made my entire body go cold. It was written in Grandpa's shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, then my time is almost up. And I know only you, Bima, are strong enough to learn the truth about our family. The others, they wouldn't be able to handle it. But you're ready." I didn't fully understand what he meant. But that night, I knew something heavy was being passed to me. The next day, Grandpa's condition worsened. His breathing grew shallow. I called everyone. No one came. He passed away at 3:17 a.m., still holding my finger. Just like he always used to when I was a kid. I buried him with my own hands. Reza and Dito showed up 2 days later. They walked in like it was a business meeting, shook hands, awkward smiles. Then they asked the one question I knew was coming. "So, how much did he leave?" I didn't answer. I just stared at them. 3 months of caring for the man they ignored. 3 months of broken sleep, hospital visits, dressing wounds, and now they showed up for cash. But I stayed quiet, let them talk, until the will reading. The day of the will reading came faster than I expected. It was held at a modest law office in town, the kind with dusty bookshelves and coffee stains on every surface. I arrived early out of habit. That's just who I'd become during those final months with Grandpa. I didn't want to miss anything. Not anymore. Reza and Dito strolled in late. Reza was in a navy suit, no tie, chewing gum like he was bored out of his mind. Dito wore sunglasses inside and kept looking at his phone like he had better things to do. They just nodded like I was a random stranger waiting for the same Uber. Mr. Arnold, Grandpa's lawyer, was already seated. A slow-moving, calm-spoken man in his 70s, he'd known Grandpa since they were both in high school. He shuffled the papers in front of him, adjusted his glasses, and began. "Gentlemen, thank you for being here. This won't take long," he said, clearing his throat. He glanced at me, and something in his expression softened. Then he pressed a button on a small speaker and said, "As per your grandfather's request, we'll begin with a recorded message." There was a click, then static, then his voice, "Grandpa." It hit me like a punch to the chest. Hearing him again, that deep, warm tone, slightly cracked from age, but still strong, still him. "If you're listening to this," he began, "then I've gone where all old men eventually go. Don't be too sad. I lived a full life, but before you hear what I've left behind, there are things I need to say." The room went silent. Even Dito looked up from his phone. "Reza, Dito, my boys, I love you, but I'm not blind. I saw how you treated me these past years. Birthdays forgotten, visits missed, calls unanswered. And when I fell, when I needed help, you both ran. You mocked your brother for staying, for giving up weekends, sleep, his own job, just to care for me. You laughed when he changed my sheets, when he sat with me in silence, when he listened to the same stories again and again. But let me tell you something you clearly forgot. Love is not loud. Love is not in status updates or gifts sent by courier. Love is presence." There was a long pause. Reza shifted in his seat. Dito leaned back, arms crossed, but I could see his foot tapping under the table. Then Grandpa's voice continued, a little softer now. "Bima, my quiet, steady boy, I can never thank you enough for what you gave me. You didn't just take care of me, you honored me. You saw me when everyone else looked away, so what I leave behind is for you." Mr. Arnold turned off the recorder, and then without any dramatic flourish, he began listing what Grandpa had left. The house, the farmland, the antique shop on Main Street that had been in our family for generations, the savings account, which I didn't even know existed, the small plot of land in Bali, the rare coin collection, and the flash drive marked confidential, along with the safe deposit key for something held at a private bank in Singapore. Every single asset, every piece of property, every possession, left to me. There was a silence so sharp it could cut glass. Reza stood up first. "This is a joke, right?" Mr. Arnold didn't even blink. "It's legally binding. Your grandfather signed it, witnessed, and recorded. Twice." Dito slammed his hand on the table. "He was sick. He wasn't thinking straight. He's punishing us." Mr. Arnold finally looked them both in the eye. "No, he was crystal clear. I've worked with your grandfather for over 30 years, and I've never seen him more lucid than when he prepared this will." They were stunned, speechless. For once, me? I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just sat there, still hearing Grandpa's voice in my head. Love is presence. It wasn't just about money. It was about legacy, about who he trusted to carry his story, his memory, his truth. And in that moment, I realized something. He hadn't just given me land or antiques or a mysterious safety deposit box. He'd given me the burden of the whole truth and whatever was still hidden inside that flash drive. I took the flash drive home that night. Didn't stop to eat. Didn't check my phone. I sat alone in Grandpa's old study, the same room where I used to sit on his lap as a kid while he read old war novels and circled crossword puzzles in ink. The desk still smelled like him. That strange mix of sandalwood, old paper, and peppermint gum. I plugged in the flash drive. There were only 2 folders inside, one labeled Private, the other Bima. I opened the one with my name first. Inside were scanned letters, pages from a journal, dozens of them, all written in his handwriting, each one addressed to me. "Bima, if you're reading this, it means you chose to stay. You chose the harder path. I didn't always say it out loud, but I saw you. Every day. I noticed your quiet strength, your patience, your gentleness. I wrote these to you over the years when I realized you were the only one still listening, the only one still here." The letters went back nearly 10 years. They talked about his regrets, his fears, but most of all, they told me things about our family that I never knew. About my father, about why our family started falling apart long before any of us realized. One line stood out so sharply I had to reread it twice. "Reza and Dito don't know this, but your father wasn't my biological son." I froze. What? The next few pages detailed something Grandpa had apparently carried alone for decades. My father, who we all assumed was his only child, was actually adopted. He never knew it. Neither did my uncles. Only Grandpa and Grandma knew. And apparently, my father's biological parents had left behind a debt. A moral debt, a financial debt, and, according to Grandpa, a criminal history that was buried during a corrupt period in local government back in the 70s. And here's the part that shook me to the core. The safe deposit box in Singapore didn't hold money. It held documents, legal proof, property records, police files, correspondence with a man Grandpa only referred to as M. In one of the letters, Grandpa wrote, "If the boys ever try to come for what I left behind, and they will, you'll need the truth on your side. You'll need this box." Because what they don't know is that their legacy wasn't earned. It was borrowed and nearly destroyed our family before. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen. My heart was pounding. Everything was unraveling. This wasn't just about me taking care of Grandpa. This wasn't about inheritance or favoritism or the good son getting rewarded. This was about Grandpa protecting what was left of the family name and making sure the one person who stayed was the one trusted to carry what came next. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the study until sunrise, surrounded by stacks of Grandpa's letters, old photographs, and 1,000 questions spinning in my head. What was in Singapore? Who was M? And why had Grandpa gone to such lengths to keep all this buried, only to place it in my hands? By morning, I had made my decision. I booked a flight. I didn't tell anyone. Not Reza, not Dito. I told my manager at work I was taking some personal time. He asked if everything was okay. I just said, "It's family." He nodded, like he understood more than he said. 3 days later, I landed in Singapore. The city was clean, precise, and unfamiliar. It felt like the perfect place to hide something important among shiny buildings and silent systems that never questioned what you didn't say out loud. The key Grandpa left me fit perfectly into a safety deposit box at a private vault in a discreet financial building. The kind of place that didn't advertise, no signs, just a front desk, cold lighting, and silent nods. Inside the box was more than I expected. Another flash drive, a leather-bound notebook cracked with age, and a sealed manila envelope with the words, "Only open if they come for you." I didn't open it. The flash drive had one folder labeled 1968 KH. Labeled 1968 KH. Inside were old scans of government documents, immigration records, arrest warrants, and something that looked like testimonies. One document caught my eye right away. It was a scanned arrest report, Indonesian National Police. The suspect KH. Accusation, land fraud, forged ownership, bribery of public officials, and asset laundering via offshore accounts. Dated March 1968. My eyes widened. That name sounded vaguely familiar. I dug through Grandpa's notebook. On the first page, in his familiar handwriting, "KH was your great-grandfather. Your father's real family name was Halim. He doesn't know. He can't know." My breath caught. Grandpa had spent decades trying to clean up the family's names, this all while protecting my father from the truth that his biological family was involved in massive corruption and possibly worse. But that also explained something else. Why Reza and Dito had grown up so entitled. Why Grandpa had always been harder on them than on me. Because he wasn't just raising grandsons. He was fighting against a bloodline. Trying to stop a cycle before it reached my generation. I sat back in the small vault room, trying to process everything. And then my phone buzzed. It was Dito, followed by Reza. Message after message flooding in. They'd found out I left the country. "Dito, what the hell are you doing in Singapore? You think you're going to hide the money somewhere? Real slick, bro." Then another one. "We know you took something. If you think you can erase us from this family, you're dead wrong." My hands tightened. So this was it. They were coming. Not just for me, but for whatever Grandpa left behind. I pulled the sealed envelope from the box, the one labeled, "Only open if they come for you." And slowly I tore it open. Inside were 2 items. A signed legal document transferring full ownership of every property, asset, and intellectual record in Grandpa's estate to my name. Irrevocable, unchallengeable, notarized and sealed in both Indonesia and Singapore. And a single handwritten line. "The wolves will howl louder when you're holding the fire. Don't let go of it. You were born to carry what they never could." The next week was chaos. As soon as I got back from Singapore, things started unraveling. Reza had filed a motion to dispute the will, again. Dito tried going through Grandpa's old business partner to gain access to the antique store, claiming it was a shared family asset. And to top it all off, they began a smear campaign against me. At first, it was subtle. Whispers through extended family, accusations that I manipulated a dying man. Then it went online. A cousin sent me a screenshot. Reza had posted a cryptic Facebook status, something about betrayal, greed, and the youngest turning his back on his own blood. The comments lit up. People who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had an opinion. Everyone seemed to forget that for 3 months, I cleaned Grandpa's wounds, sat by his side, and watched him die. Alone, I didn't respond, not publicly, but inside, I was burning. So I called Mr. Arnold. I told him everything about the documents in Singapore, the arrest records, the sealed letter, and the fact that I now had proof, real legal proof, that the Halim family name had been tied to one of the biggest corruption scandals in Indonesia's post-independence era. Mr. Arnold listened quietly, then said, "Bima, your grandfather left you something else. Not just legacy, but leverage." That night, I met with a man named Adrian. He was a journalist, an old friend of Grandpa's, actually. The two had worked together in the 90s to expose land scams in the region. Grandpa had kept Adrian's contact hidden, written in the margins of his notebook along with the words, "Only reach out if the truth is in danger." And it was. I showed Adrian the records. He stared at the arrest files, the notarized transfers, the family tree that traced my father's bloodline back to Kartono Halim. His face paled. This would destroy your brothers publicly," he said slowly. "Are you sure you want to go that far?" I stayed quiet for a long time. Then I asked, "What if I don't do anything? What if I just walk away?" He looked me in the eye. "Then they win. Not just the money. They win the story." That word hit me hard. Story. Because that's what this all really was. Not about inheritance, not about land or coins or shops. It was about the narrative. Who got to be the victim, who got to play the hero, and who got left behind in silence. The next day, I made my choice. I didn't publish the entire file. Not yet. Instead, I sent a private copy to Reza and Dito. No explanation, just the truth. Raw, unforgiving. Within hours, my phone rang. Reza's voice was trembling, not with rage, but with something closer to fear. Where did you get this?" I said. "From the man you laughed at." Silence. Then he said something I never thought I'd hear. "What do you want?" And I told him, "I want you to stop pretending. I want you to stop talking about legacy when you never earned it. I want you to stop poisoning what little name this family has left. And if you can't do that, I will let the whole world see what Grandpa tried to protect you from." 3 days passed. No response, no apology, no denial, just silence. And then an envelope arrived at my doorstep. No name, just my address, handwritten in rushed block letters. Inside was a check, split evenly between Reza, Dito, and me. No note, no apology, but the message was clear. They gave up. They weren't ready to go to war with the truth. They knew what was in those documents could ruin more than their pride. It could ruin their lives, their careers, their carefully curated reputations. They thought they could bully me, that I was weak because I was quiet. But Grandpa knew better. He always did. I didn't cash the check. I donated my share to the Veterans Hospital where Grandpa used to volunteer back in his younger days, where he used to say, "Real heroes never ask to be remembered. They just do what's right." The antique store, I reopened it, kept the old wooden sign, refinished the shelves myself. People started coming in again. Tourists, collectors, kids from school projects. I made a small section in the back. A photo wall, black and white pictures of Grandpa in his youth. A letter framed in glass, one of the ones he wrote me. Below it, a brass plaque that simply read, "In the end, the quiet ones carry everything." As for the documents, I sealed them in a lockbox, along with Grandpa's notebook. Maybe one day I'll publish the full story. Maybe I won't. But if I ever have kids of my own, I'll make sure they know where they come from. Not the dirt, not the scandal, but the truth. The real kind, the kind that doesn't need to be shouted to matter. And when people ask what Grandpa left me, I won't say the house or the land. I'll say, he left me the weight of memory, the burden of truth, and the power to walk alone without ever feeling empty. Because sometimes the greatest inheritance is not what you receive, but what you carry forward.